History contains mechanical computers built thousands of years ago. We are about to meet the forgotten inventors whose revolutionary devices were centuries ahead of their time. By the end of our journey, you will see the entire timeline of human innovation in a startling new light. How could a 2,000-year-old shipwreck hide a bronze machine with gears that predicted eclipses? Why did a functioning steam engine appear in ancient Alexandria, only to be dismissed as a toy? The stories we uncover reveal a startling truth about progress, one where genius can emerge in any era, only to be lost for generations. What does it really take for a brilliant idea to change the world? A corroded bronze lump recovered from a 2,000-year-old shipwreck held a secret that would rewrite history. This is the Antikythera Mechanism, a complex clockwork device of staggering genius. When a sponge diver first pulled it from the Mediterranean depths near the island of Antikythera in 1901, its true nature was completely obscured by centuries of undersea growth. It looked like little more than a rock, but inside that rocky crust was an intricate assembly of more than 30 interlocking bronze gears, some with teeth so fine they could only have been cut by a master craftsman. This was not a statue or a simple tool. It was an analog computer designed to predict the motion of the heavens. The device used a hand crank to power a system of gears that modeled the erratic dance of the known planets, the phases of the moon, and the timing of solar and lunar eclipses with pinpoint accuracy. It even accounted for a subtle wobble in the moon's orbit, a complex motion that requires a differential gear. This is the same engineering principle found in the axle of a modern car, allowing wheels to turn at different speeds. Yet this technology would not reappear in the historical record for another 1,600 years. The mechanism was, in effect, a portable cosmos made of bronze. It could tell an observer not just the date, but the position of the sun and moon in the zodiac, the rising and setting of specific stars, and the cycles of Panhellenic games, including the ancient Olympics. How could such a sophisticated device simply vanish from human knowledge? Its existence speaks to a vibrant tradition of Greek mechanical engineering, a school of thought that flourished in Alexandria and other centers of learning. These ancient engineers possessed a theoretical understanding of the universe and the practical skill to build a machine that mirrored its motions. The Antikythera mechanism was not a one-off miracle. It was a product of its time, likely based on designs and principles that were, for a brief period, known. The loss of this knowledge during the turbulent transitions of the ancient world represents one of history's greatest setbacks. It forces us to wonder what other brilliant inventions, equally ahead of their time, were consigned to oblivion, their stories waiting to be unearthed. Heron of Alexandria was a master of mechanical marvels, a mind so forward-thinking that his inventions would not find their true place in the world for nearly 2 millennia. In the 1st century, he constructed a simple but profound device called the aeolipile. Imagine a sealed sphere mounted on a pair of hollow tubes with 2 bent nozzles protruding from its sides. When the water inside was heated, the resulting steam rushed out through these nozzles, causing the entire sphere to whirl with tremendous force. This was not merely a curiosity. It was a working steam engine, a clear demonstration of jet propulsion and the conversion of heat into mechanical motion, principles that would not power the world until the Industrial Revolution and not take to the skies until the 20th century. Yet Heron's genius did not stop there. He engineered temple doors that appeared to open by divine will, powered by nothing more than heated air creating pressure in a hidden vessel. He built the first known coin-operated machine, dispensing a measured amount of holy water when a coin was deposited. He even designed a self-propelled cart, a programmable automaton that could be set to follow a predetermined path. These were not just toys, they were sophisticated applications of pneumatics and automation, a field of study that would lie dormant for 1,800 years. So why did this spark of an industrial revolution fail to catch fire in the ancient world? One compelling theory points to the economic structure of the era. With slave labor providing a cheap and abundant workforce, there was little economic pressure to develop labor-saving machines on a massive scale. Heron's inventions were celebrated as wonders, theatrical displays of engineering cleverness for temples and royal courts, but they were never harnessed to pump water from mines or to power mills. The potential remained locked away, a path not taken. This pattern of brilliant isolation, of a mind leaping centuries ahead only to be met with a society not yet ready to receive the gift, points us toward a Noteher Chinese letter Thinker, whose story is equally astonishing. The same pattern of genius emerging in isolation appears with the legendary Archimedes of Syracuse. His mind seemed to operate on a different plane, grasping principles of physics and mathematics that would become foundational centuries later. While the story of his heat ray, using mirrors to focus sunlight and set Roman ships ablaze, is debated for its historical accuracy, it speaks to a reputation for creating devices that bordered on the supernatural for his time. Far more concrete and equally Chinese letter was his astronomical calculator. The Roman writer Cicero described a bronze sphere built by Archimedes that modeled the motions of the sun, moon, and planets, even predicting solar and lunar eclipses. This was not just a star chart, it was a dynamic, mechanical representation of the cosmos, a direct predecessor to the Antikythera Mechanism and a stunning leap in analog computation. His practical inventions were no less revolutionary. The Archimedes screw, a simple yet brilliant helical pump, is still used in some parts of the world today to lift water with remarkable efficiency. He designed compound pulley systems that demonstrated the power of mechanical advantage, allowing a single individual to move a fully laden ship. Perhaps most famously, his principle of buoyancy and his method for calculating the volume of irregular objects, discovered in a bath, established laws of physics that would not be improved upon for nearly 2,000 years. Each of these creations was a spark of modern science in the ancient world. Yet the story of Archimedes ends with a sobering lesson about the fragility of knowledge. During the Roman siege of Syracuse, despite orders from the commanding general to spare the brilliant inventor, a soldier ended his life. The loss was more than that of a single man. It symbolized how the chaos of war and conquest could extinguish a luminous intellect and the advanced understanding it held. The destruction that followed often erased not just lives, but entire lineages of technical knowledge, setting back the clock on human progress for generations. This recurring tragedy of lost potential would echo through the centuries, even as new minds in new places began to rediscover these ancient truths. Centuries later, and in a different part of the world, the same flame of genius burned brightly. In 12th century Turkey, the engineer Ismail al-Jazari was building machines that blurred the line between mechanics and magic. His life's work was compiled into a single, magnificent volume known as the Book of Knowledge of Ingenious Mechanical Devices. This was not merely a theoretical text, it was a detailed blueprint for an entire world of automation, filled with humanoid robots, intricate water clocks, and machines that seemed to possess a life of their own. One of his most famous creations was a programmable automaton that took the form of a waitress. This humanoid figure could move among guests at a gathering, serving drinks from a tank she carried. After pouring a cup, she would wait for a predetermined amount of time before automatically refilling her own tank from a hidden internal reservoir, using a sophisticated system of float valves and levers. This was more than a clever party trick. It was one of the earliest examples of a programmable humanoid robot, a machine capable of performing a complex sequence of actions without human intervention. Al-Jazari's brilliance extended to grand public spectacles as well. His elephant clock was a masterpiece of cultural fusion. It used Greek water technology to power the mechanism, featured Indian elephant figures, was adorned with Egyptian phoenixes and Chinese dragons, and the robotic figures on top wore traditional Arabian robes. This was not just a timekeeping device. It was a symbol of global knowledge, a physical representation of how scientific understanding flowed across continents, merging into something entirely new and breathtaking. The technological foundations he laid down were profound. He designed water-powered pumps that were more efficient than any that had come before. He developed the crankshaft, a component that converts rotating motion into a back-and-forth movement, a fundamental piece of nearly every engine and machine we use today. His mechanical gates and complex control systems were leaps forward in engineering. Yet, for all its grandeur, much of al-Jazari's work remained confined to the courts of the Artukid dynasty he served. His revolutionary ideas encountered a formidable barrier in the geographical and cultural boundaries of the era. While Europe was slowly emerging from its own period of hardship, this Islamic golden age of invention was flourishing, creating a vast repository of advanced mechanical knowledge that would remain largely separate from the West for centuries. This pattern of isolated brilliance raises a profound question. How many other leaps forward were happening in parallel, completely disconnected from one another, their full potential never realized because the world was not yet connected enough to share them? In the bustling intellectual heart of 9th century Baghdad, three brothers were quietly building the foundations of modern automation. Ahmad, Muhammad, and Hassan, known collectively as the Banu Musa brothers, were scholars at the legendary House of Wisdom, a library and academy that attracted the greatest minds of the age. Their masterwork, the Book of Ingenious Devices, catalogued over 100 mechanical inventions, many of which seemed to defy their era. They designed mechanical trick devices to amuse and astound, but their most profound work lay in automatic musicians. They created flutes that played themselves, powered not by human breath but by steam. The airflow was controlled by a system of valves and levers, creating music without a musician. Yet their most staggering creation was a programmable automatic flute player. This device used a rotating cylinder with strategically placed pins, much like a modern music box. As the cylinder turned, the pins would engage levers that opened and closed the flute's valves, producing a pre-arranged melody. This was the earliest known programmable machine, a direct mechanical ancestor of the player pianos and digital sequencers that would emerge a full millennium later. Their genius extended to the very components that make automation possible. They pioneered the use of conical valves, float valves, and automatic controls for fluids and gases. These are the fundamental building blocks of feedback control systems, the same principles that govern everything from a household toilet's refilling mechanism to complex industrial robotics. These technologies would not be independently reinvented in Europe until the Renaissance, hundreds of years later. The work of the Banu Musa brothers represents a peak of scientific inquiry during the Islamic Golden Age, a period where engineering was pursued with a systematic, almost modern rigor. Their inventions were not just wonders, they were proofs of concept for programmable logic and automated control. The eventual decline of centers like the House of Wisdom, through centuries of conflict and changing political tides, led to this vast repository of knowledge being fragmented, forgotten, or preserved only in isolated manuscripts. It forces a haunting reflection. How many other leaps in understanding, equally profound, were lost in the quiet closing of library doors? As the light of this golden age dimmed, the long journey of rediscovery would soon begin elsewhere, with European visionaries starting to piece together a new age of invention from the scattered clues left behind. Even Leonardo da Vinci, a name known to all, harbored secrets of the future within his notebooks. While the world cherishes the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper, his true technological genius was Chinese letter IT was invisible to his own time. He designed an aerial screw, a helical flying machine that is the clear ancestor of the modern helicopter. He drew plans for an armored tank, a self-propelled fortress moved by crankshafts and gears. He envisioned concentrated solar power, using massive mirrors to generate industrial heat. His mind leaped past the limits of Renaissance materials and engineering, grasping principles that would not be realized for 400 years. Consider his flying machines, their wings meticulously modeled after the anatomy of a bat. He understood the physics of air resistance and lift. His design for a pyramid-shaped linen parachute was so sound that modern reconstructions prove it would have worked exactly like its contemporary counterpart. His self-propelled cart, powered by coiled springs, was a prototype for the automobile, and scattered among his thousands of pages were ideas for scuba gear, a robotic knight that could sit up and move its arms, and even a primitive calculator using a system of interlocking gears. These were not idle doodles, they were fully conceived inventions, complete with detailed mechanisms and notes on their operation. Yet they remained trapped on paper, a future that could be imagined but not yet built. The materials of his day simply could not withstand the forces his devices would generate. Iron was too brittle, manufacturing too imprecise. More importantly, the scientific community as we know it did not exist. Da Vinci worked largely in isolation, his revolutionary ideas confined to private notebooks that would be scattered and lost for generations after his passing. His story is the ultimate example of a mind leaping across the centuries, only to find that the world had not yet built the foundation to receive its gifts. This pattern of hidden genius preserved in ink and parchment would find a remarkable parallel in the quiet, monastic life of our next visionary. 2 centuries after Da Vinci's hidden notebooks, another Italian engineer was drawing the future. Giovanni Branca published a book in 1629 titled La Machine, filled with designs for automatic mills, saws, and a revolutionary steam turbine. His concept was startlingly direct. A jet of steam blasted from a nozzle would strike the blades of a paddle wheel, causing it to spin with tremendous force. This rotating power could then be harnessed through a series of gears to operate all manner of machinery. He illustrated a stamping mill for metalworking, a saw for cutting wood, and even a steam-powered pestle and mortar for grinding substances, all driven by this single Chinese letter IDEA. In essence, Branca had designed a working steam turbine, the very same principle that would one day generate electricity for cities and power massive ships across oceans. Yet in his own time, it remained a diagram on a page, a theoretical curiosity with no practical use. Why did this brilliant concept fail to launch an industrial revolution in the 17th century? The answer lies in the gap between a visionary idea and the physical world it must operate within. Branca's design lacked the precision engineering needed to contain high-pressure steam efficiently. The metals of his era were simply not strong or consistent enough to build a turbine that could run reliably without leaking, warping, or breaking under the strain. His invention was a seed planted in barren soil, It needed the supporting technologies of advanced metallurgy and precision manufacturing to truly sprout, developments that were still 200 years away. Branca's work serves as a crucial bridge in our story, connecting the ancient wonder of Heron's aeolipile to the world-changing steam engines of James Watt and his contemporaries. He saw the potential, but his world was not yet equipped to realize it. This recurring struggle, the lonely vision of an inventor whose ideas outpace the capabilities of their time, finds perhaps its most poignant expression in our next story. It is a tale of electrical genius that flickered brightly in the 18th century, only to be dimmed by forces beyond one man's control. A French monk in the 1740s was harnessing an invisible force to power the world's first electric motors. Abbe Jean-Antoine, a physicist with a flair for the dramatic, saw the potential for electricity to do more than just create sparks. He constructed intricate electrostatic motors, devices that used the repulsive force between like charges to set a glass disc or sphere into a continuous, whirring rotation. This was the foundational principle of converting electrical energy into mechanical motion, the very heart of every electric motor that would eventually power our world. Yet in Nollet's time, it was a brilliant novelty, a scientific demonstration without an industrial application. His quest to understand this mysterious force led to one of history's most unforgettable public demonstrations. To illustrate the speed at which electricity travels, he arranged for 180 Carthusian monks to form a vast human circuit by holding hands. When the circuit was connected to an electrostatic generator, the entire line of men reacted simultaneously to the shock. The spectacle proved that electricity moved with instantaneous speed, capturing the public's imagination and cementing electricity's reputation as a powerful and enigmatic fluid. Nollet was more than a showman, however. His meticulous studies of capillary action in plants and the movement of fluids through membranes revealed a mind deeply curious about the fundamental forces of nature. He built increasingly powerful electrostatic generators and even attempted to quantify the speed of electricity directly, pushing the boundaries of measurement. Despite these profound advances, his electrostatic motors remained laboratory instruments. The world of the 18th century lacked the means to generate, store, and distribute electricity on a scale that could make such motors practical for everyday work. Nollet's story is a perfect illustration of a scientific truth arriving generations before the technology needed to harness it. His work, and that of other electrical pioneers, was a map to a new continent of possibility, a continent that would remain unexplored for another 100 years. This pattern of electrical discovery preceding practical use would find its most dramatic expression in the work of a man who dared to think even bigger, channeling these mysterious forces to communicate across continents. Franz Mesmer's clinics in late 18th century Vienna and Paris were theaters of a new kind of healing, where the atmosphere was as important as the medicine. He developed an elaborate device known as the Baquet, a large wooden tub filled with iron filings and bottles of what he called magnetized water. Metal rods protruded from the lid, and patients would sit around this strange apparatus, each holding a rod connected to one another by cords looped around their bodies. The goal was to create a shared circuit for what Mesmer termed animal magnetism, an invisible fluid he believed flowed through all living things and could be manipulated to restore health. The sessions were meticulously staged with dim lighting, eerie music, and Mesmer himself moving among the participants in a lilac silk robe, making passes with his hands to direct the magnetic forces. The results were often dramatic, with patients experiencing convulsions, laughter, tears, and sometimes a complete resolution of their symptoms. While the scientific establishment of his day ultimately rejected his theory of animal magnetism as pseudoscience, they could not deny the powerful effects he produced. What Mesmer had truly tapped into centuries ahead of medical understanding was the profound influence of the mind on the body. His Bacchae was not a machine for channeling magnetic fields, but a brilliant, if accidental, tool for harnessing the placebo effect and the power of group therapy. He created a structured environment where suggestion, expectation, and shared emotional experience could trigger real physiological and psychological change. This recognition of the mind-body connection and his development of a coordinated therapeutic ritual foreshadowed the entire field of psychosomatic medicine and modern psychotherapy. Mesmer was a showman, but within his spectacle lay a Chinese letter INSIGHT, that healing often requires more than a simple physical intervention. It requires a story, a shared belief, and an environment that makes recovery feel possible. This exploration of unconventional healing opens the door to another MEDICAL Chinese letter INVENTION, one that sought to bring order to the chaotic world of surgery. A simple roll of paper pressed to a patient's chest would open up an entirely new world for medicine. In 1816, the French physician René Laennec found himself needing to examine a young woman with a heart condition, but her modesty and the ineffectiveness of simply placing an ear to the chest made the task difficult. In a moment of inspired improvisation, he rolled a stack of paper into a tight cylinder. When he placed one end on her chest and his ear to the other, he was stunned. The sounds of her heart and lungs were not just audible, they were clear and distinct. He had just invented the first stethoscope. Laennec immediately recognized the profound potential of his accidental discovery. He replaced the paper with a hollow wooden tube, a monaural device that looked like a long-ear trumpet, and began a meticulous, years-long study. He spent countless hours listening to the sounds of the human body, correlating the subtle clicks, whooshes, and murmurs he heard with the conditions he later confirmed through post-mortem examinations. He catalogued the specific sound of a tubercular cavity in the lung, the distinct whisper of pneumonia, and the various abnormal rhythms of a failing heart. He was not just building a tool, he was creating an entirely new diagnostic language, establishing the foundation of modern auscultation. This was a revolutionary leap. For the first time, a physician could peer inside a living body without a scalpel, diagnosing internal ailments with unprecedented accuracy based on acoustic evidence. Tragically, the very disease he studied so intently, tuberculosis, would eventually claim his own life. His personal experience with illness only deepened his resolve, and his work combined clinical observation with pathological evidence in a way that powerfully anticipated modern evidence-based medicine. Laennec's listening tube was more than a simple instrument. It was a key that unlocked the hidden sounds of life and disease. This breakthrough in using technology to perceive the invisible inner workings of the body would soon find a powerful parallel in a NOTHER Chinese letter INVENTION, one that sought to capture those inner landscapes as a permanent image. The heavens were not the only frontier Sir John Herschel sought to capture. This brilliant astronomer, mapping the stars of the southern sky from his observatory in South Africa, was driven by a profound desire to make the unseen permanent. He looked through his telescope and saw not just points of light, but images he feared would be lost to memory. This frustration led him to a parallel obsession in his laboratory, experimenting with the strange power of light to alter chemicals. In 1839, the same year, Louis Daguerre and William Henry Fox Talbot announced their rival photographic processes to the world. Herschel created the very first glass negative. He also gave the world the words we use to describe it all, coining the terms photography, negative, and positive. His most practical breakthrough was discovering the use of sodium thiosulfate as a fixer, a chemical that stops the photographic image from fading away, a solution that made all permanent photography possible. For Herschel, this was not merely an artistic pursuit, it was a scientific necessity. He envisioned cameras attached to telescopes, automatically recording the precise positions of stars and the delicate structure of nebulae. He was dreaming of astrophotography and scientific imaging decades before the technology to achieve it reliably even existed. His investigations went deeper into the nature of light itself. He studied the ultraviolet spectrum, the invisible light beyond violet that could still trigger chemical reactions, and from this understanding he invented the cyanotype process. By coating paper with light-sensitive iron compounds, he found a way to create those distinctive blue and white prints we now call blueprints. It was a simple, durable, and revolutionary method for reproducing diagrams and notes. Yet, despite these foundational contributions, history often remembers Dague and Talbot as the fathers of photography. Herschel was a scientist, not a promoter. He shared his discoveries freely in letters and academic circles, while others raced to secure patents and public fame. His story is a quiet testament to how credit in the history of invention is not always a matter of who had the idea first, but of who managed to capture the world's attention at the right moment. This race to fix a fleeting image onto a permanent surface was just one part of a much broader revolution in seeing. A revolution that would soon produce a device capable of projecting moving pictures long before the world was ready to watch them. A century before the first electronic computers whirred to life, a Victorian gentleman conceived of a machine that could think. Charles Babbage's Analytical Engine, designed in the 1830s, was a mechanical marvel that contained the complete logical blueprint of every computer we use today. It featured a mill, which we would now call a central processing unit for performing calculations. It had a store or memory capable of holding 1,000 numbers, each up to 50 digits long. Most astonishingly, it was programmable using a system of punched cards, an idea Babbage adapted from the automated textile looms of his era. This was not a simple calculator, it was a general-purpose computer. It could make decisions, performing different operations based on the results of previous calculations, a process known as conditional branching. It could execute loops, repeating a sequence of operations until a condition was met. It even had designs for a printer to output its results onto paper, creating permanent records. The Analytical Engine was, in theory, a universal thinking machine built from brass and steel. Its potential was seen most clearly not by Babbage himself, but by his brilliant collaborator, Augusta Ada King, the Countess of Lovelace. She translated and annotated a description of the engine, and in her notes, she laid down the fundamentals of computer programming. She wrote the first algorithm intended to be processed by a machine, a sequence of operations for calculating a series of numbers known as Bernoulli numbers. But her vision went far beyond mere calculation. She speculated that the engine could compose complex music, generate graphics, and be used for any purpose where logical symbols could be manipulated. She understood that the machine operated on a fundamental level of abstraction, a vision of computing that would not be fully realized for over a century. The tragedy of the Analytical Engine was not a lack of imagination, but a gap in manufacturing. The technology of the Victorian era simply could not produce the thousands of perfectly machined gears and components with the precision and at the cost required to build it. Babbage died with his great invention existing only as vast piles of detailed drawings. It was a future imagined in exquisite detail, yet stranded in the wrong century. This same story of mathematical genius leaping beyond the limits of its time would be echoed in the quiet, determined work of a N-O-T-H-E-R Chinese letter T-H-I-N-K-E-R, whose abstract geometries would one day form the bedrock of our digital world. George Boole's quiet mathematical revolution began not with machines, but with the pure language of thought itself. While Babbage and Lovelace were mapping the architecture of computation, Boole was uncovering its very soul. In the middle of the 19th century, this self-taught English mathematician proposed a breathtakingly simple idea. What if the intricate processes of human logic could be expressed with the precision of algebra? His system, Boolean algebra, reduced reasoning to binary variables and a handful of operations, and or and not. A statement could be true or false, represented by a 1 or a 0. The logical connection and could be a multiplication or could be an addition, and not could invert the outcome. This was not merely a new branch of mathematics, it was a grammar for truth itself, laid out in his 1854 book, An Investigation of the Laws of Thought. At the time, it was a philosophical curiosity, a brilliant abstraction discussed in academic circles with little sense of its practical application. Boole himself saw it as a way to explore the fundamental laws of the human mind, never imagining the silicon circuits of the future. His wife, Mary Boole, carried his intellectual passion forward, pioneering innovative methods for teaching mathematical concepts to children, ensuring that his legacy of abstract thinking would inspire future generations. Tragically, George Boole never lived to see his system of ones and zeros become the literal lifeblood of the digital age. It would take nearly a century for electrical engineers to realize that his symbolic logic was the perfect blueprint for designing circuits. A switch could be on or off, a 1 or a 0. By arranging these switches according to Boolean operations, they could build machines that made logical decisions, that could calculate, and that could remember. Every search query you type, every line of code that runs a program, every microchip in your phone rests upon the foundation Boole built from pure reason. His story is a profound testament to the power of an idea whose time had not yet come, a mathematical ghost waiting patiently in the pages of a book for the technology to give it physical form. This same quest to codify communication, to find a universal language for exchanging complex information, would soon manifest in a very different, yet EQUALLY Chinese letter invention. Johann Philipp Reis heard a future others were deaf to. In 1861, this German physics teacher constructed a device he called the telephone, a name he derived from Greek words meaning far sound. Its design was elegantly simple. A carved wooden ear served as a microphone, its diaphragm fashioned from a snippet of sausage skin. When sound waves struck this membrane, it vibrated, causing a platinum needle to tap against a metal contact. This tapping action rapidly made and broke an electrical circuit, sending a pulsing current down a wire to a receiver, where an electromagnet clicked a knitting needle against a sounding box, recreating a crude approximation of the original noise. It was a brilliant proof of concept, the very first working telephone. Reis demonstrated his invention to scientific societies, successfully transmitting musical melodies and even simple, clearly enunciated phrases. The most famous of these was the oddly specific sentence, "The horse does not eat cucumber salad." He chose these words not for their meaning, but for their distinct phonetic sounds, proving his device could carry the building blocks of speech. For a moment, it seemed he had unlocked a new world of communication. Yet his telephone never found its place in the world. The scientific establishment of his day dismissed it as a mere philosophical toy, an interesting but impractical novelty. The core limitation was in its technical principle. Reis used an on-off or make-break electrical contact. This was superb for replicating the clear pitch of a musical note, but it was terrible for capturing the subtle, continuous waves of the human voice. It could send the rhythm of speech, but not its soul, the rich tapestry of tones and inflections that make a whisper or a shout intelligible. This single technical difference is what separated obscurity from world-changing fame. 15 years later, Alexander Graham Bell would patent his telephone, which used a continuous variable resistance transmitter. Instead of just clicking on and off, Bell's device created an electrical analog of the sound wave itself, a flowing current that mirrored every nuance of the human voice. Rise had built the first key, but it was Bell who perfected the lock. The story of the telephone is a heartbreaking lesson in the narrow margin, BETWEEN Chinese letter GENIUS, and historical footnote. It was not a lack of vision that held Rise back, but a subtle engineering hurdle that his world lacked the resources to overcome. This quest to send intelligence across vast distances would soon inspire another electrical marvel, one that sought to illuminate not just sound but the entire world. Nikola Tesla stood in his Colorado Springs laboratory, a solitary figure orchestrating a symphony of raw electrical force. Bolts of artificial lightning, some over 100 feet long, erupted from a colossal coil, illuminating the night with a deafening crackle. Yet his true goal was not this fearsome display, but a far quieter miracle. Across the darkened field, a circle of ordinary light bulbs, unplugged and without any wires, glowed with an ethereal light powered by the very air itself. This was the tangible proof of his MOST Chinese letter DREAM, a world where energy flowed freely through the atmosphere and the ground beneath our feet, making every point on the globe a potential outlet. He envisioned a planet woven together by an invisible web of power, where ships at sea and aircraft in flight could draw energy from the air, and every home could be powered without a single cord. This vision culminated in the ambitious Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island. It was not merely a tower, but the heart of a global system designed to transmit both information and limitless electrical power. Tesla intended to use the Earth's own resonant frequency to send signals and energy pulsing through the planet's crust and the upper atmosphere. In a single grand design, he had anticipated radio broadcasting, wireless communication, and the entire concept of a connected world grid, all while aiming to provide clean, free energy to all of humanity. The scale of his ambition outstripped the technical and financial realities of his time. The materials needed for such a global network did not exist, and the capital required was staggering. His primary backer, the financier J.P. Morgan, eventually withdrew support, famously asking, "Where do I put the meter?" In a world built on selling a commodity, the idea of giving away power for free was economically unthinkable. The principles Tesla demonstrated, however, were not magic. They WERE Chinese letter SCIENCE. His work on resonant inductive coupling, where energy is efficiently transferred between two objects vibrating at the same frequency, is the very foundation of the wireless charging pads we use today for our phones and electric toothbrushes. His ideas about harvesting minute amounts of energy from the environment prefigured research into ambient energy sources, and his concept of a global, interconnected network was a direct blueprint for the World Wide Web of information we now take for granted. Yet the most profound parts of his vision, a world truly free of power lines, remain just beyond our grasp, a testament to an imagination that saw a century further than his contemporaries. Tesla's struggle was the ultimate expression of a recurring theme, a mind so far ahead that it becomes isolated by its own brilliance, its grandest ideas waiting for the world to catch up. This lonely path of Chinese letter Inventor finds a different but equally poignant expression in the story of a man who tried to build a new kind of engine, one that ran on light itself. While Baird's mechanical discs were spinning in London, a different kind of image was being painted across the Atlantic with beams of electrons. The story of television is not one of a single inventor, but a race between two fundamentally different ways of seeing at a distance. Baird's system was tactile, almost Victorian in its intricacy. His nip-cow disc was a spinning wheel perforated with a spiral of tiny holes. As the disc whirled, each hole scanned a thin sliver of the scene in front of it, allowing a photoelectric cell to capture the changing light. At the receiver, another synchronized disc and a neon lamp reconstructed the image line by flickering line. It was a brilliant mechanical solution to an electronic problem, and it worked. With just 30 lines of resolution, the first transmitted image was a ventriloquist's dummy named Stooky Bill, his face a ghostly, flickering apparition that marked the birth of broadcast television. Baird, a relentless showman and engineer, did not stop there. He pushed his mechanical system to its absolute limits, later demonstrating color transmission, 3D stereoscopic television, and even a primitive form of video recording by etching the signal onto wax phonograph discs. He founded the world's first television station, and for a few years, his Baird Television Development Company broadcast scheduled programming. Yet even as he was proving that television was possible, the seeds of his system's obsolescence were already sprouting. The future was not in spinning discs and neon lamps, but in vacuum tubes and cathode ray tubes. In the United States, a young inventor named Philo Farnsworth had sketched out the concept for an all-electronic television system while still in high school, and by 1927, he had successfully transmitted the world's first electronic television image, a simple straight line, using a device he called an image dissector. At the same time, Vladimir Zworykin was developing the iconoscope for RCA, another fully electronic camera tube. These electronic systems had no moving parts, could scan hundreds of lines almost instantly, and offered a clarity and potential for growth that Baird's mechanical method could never match. The race was over almost as soon as it began. Baird's working, broadcasting television was a magnificent dead end, a fully realized technology that WIS Chinese letter I, and its ambition but already a relic in its underlying mechanics at the very moment of its triumph. This pattern of a functional invention being bypassed by a more elegant and scalable solution finds a powerful echo in the world of data storage, where another brilliant mechanical system would briefly shine before being rendered obsolete by the silent, swift power of electrons. Decades before screens filled our homes, the blueprint for a connected web of knowledge already existed on paper. Vannevar Bush, a scientist who had coordinated 6,000 American researchers during the Second World War, turned his mind from the machinery of conflict to the future of human understanding. In 1945, he published an essay titled As We May Think, and within it, he described a device called the Memex. This was not a machine he built with gears and wires, but one he constructed with pure foresight. He envisioned a personal desk where an individual could store all of their books, letters, and records on microfilm. But the true genius of the Memex was not in its storage, it was in its trails. A user could link any two pieces of information together, creating a permanent associative pathway between them. He described this as a trail of breadcrumbs through the world's knowledge, a way to forge your own intellectual journey that others could later follow. This was the conceptual birth of hypertext, the very principle that allows you to click a link and jump to another web page. Bush imagined keyword searches that would summon information in an instant, and the ability to annotate and add your own thoughts to any document. He was mapping the architecture of the modern internet 50 years before it became a reality. His vision directly inspired the pioneers who would build our digital world. Ted Nelson, who coined the term hypertext, and Douglas Engelbart, whose legendary Mother of All Demos in 1968 showcased the computer mouse and collaborative editing, both credited Bush's essay as their foundational spark. It is a profound legacy that a man who oversaw the development of analog computers and radar systems is best remembered for an idea he could not physically construct. The Memex was a ghost in the machine of the 20th century, a perfect future waiting for its time to arrive. This conceptual leap from mechanical storage to associative, personal knowledge networks finds a remarkable parallel in a NOTHER Chinese letter TECHNOLOGY, one that used the quiet power of light to capture a fleeting image, only to see its own potential remain dormant for a generation. While the West was still building room-sized mainframes, a Polish engineer constructed a personal computer in a briefcase. Jacek Karpinski designed his K202 microcomputer in 1971, a machine that was not just a little better than its contemporaries, but generations ahead. It was built around a 16-bit processor, the same kind of architecture that would not become standard in Western personal computers for another 10 years. This meant it could handle more data at once and tackle far more complex tasks. But the real magic was inside its compact frame. Karpinski employed a technique called pipelining, a design that allowed the processor to work on multiple instructions simultaneously, like an assembly line for data. This engineering masterstroke gave the K202 a staggering speed of up to 1 million operations per second. To put that in perspective, this Polish briefcase computer was faster than the original IBM PC, a machine that would not even appear on the market until 1981. It was small enough for a desk, affordable enough for schools and laboratories, and powerful enough to run several programs at the same time, a feature known as multiprogramming that was revolutionary for a machine of its size. This was not just a prototype, it was a fully realized vision of the personal computing future, arriving a decade early. So why have you probably never heard of it? The answer lies not in engineering but in politics. Despite its clear superiority, Karpinski's project faced intense opposition from the communist authorities who controlled Poland's industrial planning. They favored the safety of copying established Western designs over the perceived risk of backing a brilliant domestic invention. The K202 was seen as a threat to the centralized technological agenda. After a bitter political struggle, the state cancelled the project. Only about 30 units were ever produced, and Karpinski's career was effectively ended. The K202 became a ghost in the machine of history, a perfect demonstration of how a brilliant idea can be extinguished not by technical failure, but by institutional resistance. This pattern of suppression, where a system rejects the very innovation that could transform it, finds a haunting parallel in our next story, a medical breakthrough that was ignored for generations because it challenged the established wisdom of its age. The hum of a vacuum tube and the faint glow of an oscilloscope defined another laboratory where a Chinese letter VISIONARY believed he had found a key to healing. Royal Rife, an American inventor working in the 1930s, proposed a radical idea that every microorganism has its own unique vibrational signature, a resonant frequency. He theorized that by broadcasting this specific frequency, he could shatter the pathogen without causing any harm to the surrounding human tissue. To support his claims, Rife first built incredibly powerful optical microscopes, which he asserted could observe live viruses, a feat that modern science maintains was impossible with the technology of his day. Through these lenses, he claimed to identify the frequencies of various agents of illness, and he built machines to generate and deliver these precise oscillations. His work attracted both fervent supporters and deep skepticism. Reports emerged of successful treatments for serious conditions, but these were based on individual cases and lacked the controlled, repeatable structure of formal clinical trials. The medical establishment of the era largely rejected his methods, citing a lack of verifiable evidence and the inability of other researchers to replicate his dramatic results under controlled conditions. Rife's story remains one of the most polarizing in the history of invention, a stark illustration of the tension between a brilliant concept and the rigorous process required to validate it for widespread use. Yet, the underlying principle he explored, using targeted energy to disrupt harmful biological agents, has never completely faded. In recent decades, a renewed scientific curiosity has emerged around related concepts. Modern research into photodynamic therapy, which uses specific wavelengths of light to activate compounds that destroy cancer cells, and investigations into pulsed electromagnetic fields for tissue repair, show that the core idea of targeted energetic treatment still holds a powerful allure for science. Rife's legacy is a complex one, a cautionary tale about the necessity of evidence, but also a reminder that SOME Chinese letter IDEAS are not so much wrong as they are premature, waiting for the right tools and understanding to test them properly. This controversial intersection of energy and medicine finds a parallel in another disputed invention, one that claimed to draw limitless power directly from the air around us. Victor Schauberger believed our entire approach to energy was backwards. An Austrian forester by trade, he spent his life studying the subtle movements of water in pristine mountain streams. He watched a trout hold motionless in a raging current, then with a sudden flick shoot upwards past a waterfall. He saw how a river, when left to its own devices, never flows in a straight line but meanders in a series of gentle curves. He observed the spiraling power of whirlpools and tornadoes. From these quiet moments, he built a radical philosophy. Modern technology, he argued, was destructive because it relied on explosion, on heat, friction, and force that breaks things down. Nature, he saw, works through implosion, a cool, inward spiraling motion that builds, purifies, and concentrates energy. He called this the cycloid spiral motion, and he was convinced it was the key to a completely new form of power. He translated this philosophy into tangible devices, constructing logarithmic spiral pipes and vortex turbines. Water forced through these spiraling channels would, according to his theories, restructure itself, shedding impurities and even generating a levitational force. His most famous concept was the repulsine, a discoid engine that looked like a flying saucer and was said to create a vacuum at its core, drawing energy directly from the surrounding environment. He spoke of machines that could purify water without chemicals, generate limitless energy, and even achieve flight by mimicking the natural motions he had documented. The claims were extraordinary, promising a world powered not by burning fuel, but by harmonizing with the intrinsic energy of nature itself. Yet, like so MANY Chinese letter IDEAS, they ran squarely into the brutal realities of their time. During the Second World War, his unique understanding of water dynamics and vortex energy attracted the attention of the Nazi regime. He was compelled to work on their secret energy projects, a period of his life he would later describe with deep regret. His research was co-opted for purposes he never intended. Then, at the end of the conflict, the story goes that American forces identified his work as strategically important and confiscated his notes and prototypes, further scattering his life's work. Schauberger's legacy is a complex tapestry of profound observation and unverified claims. No mainstream scientific study has ever conclusively proven his machines produced the over-unity energy he described. Yet his core insight that we must look to natural systems as a model for our technology has only grown more relevant with time. His ideas about structuring water through vortex motion continue to inspire researchers in alternative energy and ecological design. His story is the ultimate expression of a mind that saw a different path, one of cooperation with nature rather than domination. It also serves as a sobering reminder of how easily a revolutionary idea can be swept up by political currents, its pure potential diluted and lost in the conflicts of the era. This journey through the lives of forgotten geniuses now brings us to our final story, a tale of a man who saw the future of information in the quiet patterns of paper and light. Stanford Ovchinsky saw a different kind of order in chaos. While the scientific establishment of the 1960s was fixated on the perfect, crystalline structure of silicon for electronics, Ovchinsky, a self-taught inventor with no formal university degree, was captivated by disordered materials. He pioneered a new class of substances called amorphous semiconductors, solids where the atoms were arranged randomly like a frozen liquid. To the experts, this was heresy. Conventional wisdom insisted that only the flawless, repeating lattice of a crystal could properly control the flow of electrons. They dismissed the independent inventor from the Midwest, his ideas seeming to come from nowhere. Yet Ovchinsky was not deterred. He had discovered that these chaotic materials could do something remarkable. They could switch between conducting and non-conducting states, and they could remember which state they were in. This was the foundation of phase change memory, a technology that would later become crucial for data storage. His insights did not stop there. He realized that thin films of these amorphous materials could convert sunlight directly into electricity, leading to the flexible, affordable solar panels that would help power the modern renewable energy movement. Perhaps his most tangible legacy is in the battery that powers your hybrid car or many of your rechargeable devices, the nickel metal hydride battery. His company, Energy Conversion Devices, became a hub of relentless innovation, a place that attracted brilliant minds but also constant skepticism from an industry slow to accept a paradigm shift from an outsider. Ovchinsky's journey underscores a painful truth that the gatekeepers of science are often the last to welcome a revolution. It was not a lack of proof that initially held his work back, but a deeply ingrained bias against the autodidact, the thinker who operates outside the approved channels. His ultimate vindication, with over 400 patents to his name, connects to the very heart of our exploration. Why does the world so frequently resist the minds that are trying to build its future? The answer may lie not in the flaws of the inventions, but in the inertia of our own institutions. These recurring stories reveal a deep and consistent pattern of resistance. Chinese letter INVENTIONS face. The first and most obvious barrier is the technological ceiling of the era. A brilliant design for a steam turbine is useless if the metallurgy to contain high-pressure steam does not exist. A concept for a portable computer remains a fantasy without the microchip. These inventors were not just dreaming of new machines, they were dreaming of entirely new industries and material sciences that would take centuries to develop. Their visions were trapped, waiting for the rest of the world to build the foundational tools needed to bring them to life. Equally powerful are the economic forces that shape what we build. In a society where manual labor was abundant and inexpensive, as it was in the ancient world with widespread slavery, there was simply no financial incentive to invest in complex labor-saving devices. Heron's steam engine was a wonder, not a utility, because the economic pressure to mechanize did not yet exist. An invention must not only be possible, it must also be profitable, or at least serve a pressing need that someone is willing to pay to solve. Beyond these practical limits lies a more subtle human obstacle, our deep-seated psychological resistance to disruptive change. A new idea that challenges established worldviews is often met with instinctive dismissal. It can be frightening, threatening to the social order, or simply too strange to comprehend. The established scientific community, with its accepted theories and institutional pride, can become a fortress of inertia, slow to accept breakthroughs from outsiders or those challenging the core dogma. We see this in the initial rejection of amorphous semiconductors, a concept that defied the crystalline perfection everyone knew was necessary. The culture itself acts as a filter. Religious doctrines have at times suppressed inquiries that seem to challenge spiritual authority. Military needs have sometimes accelerated innovation, like the development of radar, while in other cases suppressing or seizing technologies for secret purposes, as may have happened with Victor Schauberger's work. All of this is captured in a powerful idea called the adjacent possible. Think of it as a room next door. At any given moment in history, society can only easily step into that adjacent room, using the tools and concepts it already has at hand. A revolutionary invention does not open the door next to it, it smashes a hole in a wall several rooms away. The world is not yet ready to walk through. This is why we see certain ideas, like the differential gear or the principle of the battery, being discovered and lost, then rediscovered independently when the cultural and technological landscape had finally shifted to make them visible. The lonely genius is often someone who has managed to peek into a room far in the future, but cannot bring anyone else there to see it. Understanding these patterns does more than explain the past, it reframes our view of the present. The dismissed idea of today, the one that seems too radical or too implausible, might simply be waiting for its moment, for the adjacent possible to expand until the world is finally ready to accept its gift. The legacy of these forgotten inventors is not just their machinery, but a lesson in humility, reminding us that the boundaries of the possible are always shifting, and that the future often whispers its secrets long before we are prepared to listen. We can now hold the genius of the past in our hands. In workshops and laboratories around the world, historians and engineers have painstakingly reconstructed THESE, Chinese letter DEVICES, transforming faded manuscripts and corroded fragments into whirring, functional reality. A full-scale model of Babbage's difference engine, built to his original specifications, clicks and clacks through its calculations with mesmerizing precision, proving his designs were not just theoretical fantasies but entirely sound mechanical blueprints. Across the globe, experts have assembled multiple working replicas of the Antikythera Mechanism, its interlocking bronze gears tracking the moon's phases and predicting eclipses with an accuracy that stuns modern astronomers. These are not mere museum displays, they are active proof that the foundational ideas for complex computation existed 2 millennia ago. Even the playful automata of Heron of Alexandria have been reborn, their temple doors swinging open and their mechanical plays performing once more, all powered by the simple principles of air and water pressure he mastered. These physical recreations settle a long-standing debate, confirming these were not just philosophical concepts but practical, working machines. Digital tools have pushed this rediscovery even further. With advanced three-dimensional modeling and computer simulations, researchers can peer inside a device without ever touching the original. They can test gear ratios, simulate wear and tear, and animate mechanisms that are too fragile to be reassembled. This virtual archaeology has revealed subtleties in designs that were completely missed by historians working only from textual descriptions or heavily damaged artifacts. The true sophistication of medieval Islamic water clocks and the elegant feedback systems in al-Jazari's programmable waitress become breathtakingly clear when seen in motion. We are not just reading about genius anymore, we are watching it operate in real time. This process of rebuilding the past does more than validate history, it actively inspires our future. Engineers studying the Antikythera Mechanism have gained new insights into compact gear design for modern robotics. Architects look to ancient Persian wind catchers for passive cooling solutions. The challenges these forgotten inventors solved with such limited materials are now informing how we approach our own contemporary design problems in sustainable energy and efficient mechanics. This ongoing conversation between past and present raises a compelling question for our own time. What brilliant ideas are we dismissing today as impossible or impractical? The reconstructions prove that the line between a forgotten toy and a world-changing technology is often just a matter of perspective and of patience. The process of rediscovery is never truly complete, as each generation brings new tools and new questions to the enduring mysteries left behind by those who saw the future first. These historical patterns of brilliant isolation offer a clear warning for our own time. The same forces that sideline Chinese letter inventors of the past are still very much at work within our modern systems of innovation. Our contemporary patent structures, for instance, are often designed to protect incremental improvements on existing products, not to shelter the kind of radical, foundational ideas that redefine entire fields. A truly novel concept, one that has no established market or defies current scientific understanding, can easily be dismissed as unpatentable or simply overlooked in a system that rewards predictable progress. Similarly, academic publishing and corporate research priorities frequently favor safe bets with a high probability of short-term success, creating a powerful incentive to stay within the well-lit corridors of the adjacent possible rather than venturing into the dark rooms beyond. The story of Stanford Ovchinsky, the self-taught inventor whose amorphous semiconductors were initially rejected by the scientific establishment, is a stark reminder that gatekeepers of knowledge can still be slow to recognize a revolution, especially when it comes from an outsider. This suggests we must consciously design systems that actively protect and nurture unconventional thinking. One vital lesson is the importance of preserving wild ideas, even when their immediate application seems utterly impractical. The value of blue sky research, the kind pursued for pure curiosity without a defined commercial goal, cannot be overstated. Many of our most transformative technologies, from the World Wide Web to the laser, began as solutions in search of a problem, funded by institutions that valued knowledge for its own sake. Creating spaces for interdisciplinary collaboration is another crucial step. The most groundbreaking leaps often happen at the boundaries between established fields, where a perspective from biology can solve a problem in engineering, or a concept from art can inspire a new computer interface. Heron of Alexandria was a master of this fusion, combining physics, theater, and mechanical engineering to create his wonders. Perhaps the most important takeaway is the need to tolerate and even celebrate productive failure. For every success, there are countless experiments that do not work as planned, but each one teaches a vital lesson that guides the next attempt. A culture that punishes failure ensures that only the most conservative ideas will be pursued. By maintaining diverse sources of funding, from government grants and university endowments to private philanthropy and visionary corporate investment, we can create a resilient ecosystem where a wider variety of ideas can find support. This diversity ensures that a concept rejected by one institution might find a home with another, preventing a single point of failure from halting a potentially world-changing line of inquiry. The goal is to build a world where a modern-day Babbage finds the resources to build his engine, where a new Tesla discovers partners who share his grand vision, and where a future Karpinski never faces the political suppression that condemned his brilliant machine to obscurity. The legacy of these forgotten minds is not just a collection of fascinating stories, but a practical guide for how we might finally learn to listen for the quiet whispers of the future and ensure that the next great leap forward is not lost but welcomed. Our journey through these stories reveals a startling truth about progress, one that is far from the smooth, upward line we often imagine. True innovation is a fragile thing, a spark that can be ignited in any era, only to be smothered by the technological ceilings, economic pressures, or simple inertia of its time. The genius of an Archimedes or a Babbage was not in doubt, but their world lacked the tools, the materials, or the collective will to bring their most ambitious visions into the mainstream. Knowledge itself can be a fleeting resource, lost to the chaos of war, the quiet closing of a library, or the shifting tides of political power, only to be painstakingly rediscovered centuries later. THESE Chinese letter VISIONRIES show us that human creativity has always pushed against the boundaries of the possible. But whether a brilliant idea changes the world depends on a delicate dance between the individual mind and the society it inhabits. This forces a humbling reflection on our own time. What revolutionary concepts are we dismissing today as mere curiosities or impossible dreams? Which of our contemporary inventors, working in obscurity, are drawing blueprints for a future we cannot yet see? The greatest lesson from these forgotten minds is the importance of maintaining a sense of humility about the limits of our present knowledge. It is a call to foster the creative spirit in all its forms, to protect the wild ideas, and to build systems that are open to the kind of disruptive, world-altering change that has always defined humanity's greatest leaps forward. I would love to hear which of these inventors most captured your imagination. Share your thoughts in the comments and tell me why their story, lost for so long,